Hi there, I'm Susan Beyer, and this is Fun with Research. Thanks for joining me today. I want to talk today about engaging with partners to secure survey respondents. This is something that a lot of my clients don't really think about as an option, but in many cases it can be a wonderful way to do a few things. First of all, get access to the people that you want to participate in your research. Second of all, create a relationship with someone else serving that population who maybe has complementary services to yours. And it can work really well, but there's some guidelines that I'd like to give you for doing this. First of all, you need to figure out who the right partners are. So if you're in a B2B situation, I would look for associations serving the folks that you are trying to reach. Often they have large communities of these folks and love to provide new information and helpful research. It really it helps with their thought leadership as an association. If you're in a B2C situation, you might look for organizations that are complementary to yours, serving the same consumers. So for example, if you're a CVB and you want to get some information on visitors to your area, you might talk to local hospitality outlets, restaurants, hotels, that kind of thing, spas, places that may have lists of people who have come to visit or have reservations to visit in the future. So once you've identified the perfect folks, how do you approach them about doing the research? And this is where I would really suggest that you put a little sort of talking sheet together about what you're doing and introduce yourself with that, because a lot of times these folks will tend to just sort of discount doing something like this right away without even thinking about it. And that comes from a lack of interest in sharing their list with anyone. They don't want anybody else to have access to their emails. Maybe they've had a bad experience with somebody who did something with them, and then they got a lot of complaints because their community was getting pestered from a sales standpoint with a partner that did something with them. You know, people hate that. You go to a conference and you register for the conference and all of a sudden you're just inundated with sales emails, and that's no fun. So they may be resistant at first, which is why I suggest you put sort of a document together that you can share with them. And here's what needs to be in that. First of all, what are you doing? Right? Is this a survey or these interviews? Sort of what is your initiative? And this is very important. Why are you doing it? If you're doing something for thought leadership, that can clear a lot of decks for you because you are willing to share that information with the community, right? As opposed to keeping it for something that you're going to do with it that's going to make you money and isn't going to help anybody else. So if you're going to do it for thought leadership, talk about that, talk about why you want to do the research, and talk about how you're going to be sharing it with the community. You want to talk about what they're going to get out of it. So everybody has a self-interest. And one of the things that you can do for partners is say, look, if you engage with us on this to reach your community, we'll give you first dibs at looking at the research. We'll be able to show you the responses in aggregate from the respondents that you generated to the survey so they can kind of get a view of their people. And maybe, you know, they get the opportunity, if they're an association, for example, to have the research presented at their show with them as a co-sponsor of it, which makes them look really good. So sort of what's in it for them. Then you want to talk about what you need from them. And this is where I think you can address a lot of concerns that they may have. So, for example, you can say, you do not need to give us your email list. You're going to send out invitations directly to your community, and we never need to collect that list from you. And that actually works really well for research because the people getting the invitation are getting it from a known entity, not some random agency or research company. Secondly, you can talk about how the research is anonymous. So you don't need contact information from people. If you're working with a research company and you have an incentive in place, the research company can manage all of that, so you don't actually ever see the data about who entered the survey and their contact information. You can promise them that there's not going to be any selling associated with it. So You need to stick to that promise. But you can say, look, we just want information from these folks. We're not going to come back to them with any kind of selling activity. And that could alleviate a lot of their concerns. And then you want to give them an idea of the timeline and sort of what they're going to have to do to participate in this so that they can judge whether that works for them. They may have a lot of other things going on, including potentially their own research. And you want to make sure they sort of can see when you want them to be doing things for them so that they can assess how that would align. In my experience, preparing something like this and then having my clients approach a potential partner initially with something like this goes quite a ways to getting that, yeah, let's talk about that kind of discussion going. In many cases, organizations aren't in a position to do their own research, don't have the funding, don't have the capabilities, and the ability to partner with someone to do research together, maybe to contribute some ideas about questions that they would like to see asked or data they would like to have collected, is a really neat opportunity for them. They just need to make sure that the things that their organization is going to be concerned about, access to their members, sharing email addresses. If you're in the healthcare field, knowing that the research is HIPAA compliant, for example, those things really matter. But if you just kind of lay that out before you're face to face with them, in my experience, that can do a lot to getting you to that conversation about partnering up for something. So if you are engaged in a research project or thinking about one, consider partnerships. I have found them a really wonderful way to build connections with partner organizations by doing research together. That's opened up all kinds of opportunities for my clients, speaking opportunities, more research opportunities, etc. So it can be really wonderful, it can be really rewarding, and I think if you put a little time in on the front end to explain things to them in a written document that they can review without you sitting across the desk, that's a good way to go. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm Susan Beyer. You can always reach me, Susan at audienceaudit.com. Thanks for joining me today. See you next week.